Wait, before you scroll again, just listen for a moment. Because this isn't random. And deep down, you already feel that. There have been moments, quiet ones, when everything slowed down for a second and you felt something. A pull, a thought. Pay attention. But you brushed it off. You told yourself it was nothing. You kept moving. You kept distracting yourself. You kept choosing noise over that quiet voice. And the truth is, this wasn't the first time. You felt it more than once, in different ways, at different moments. But each time, you ignored it. Not because you wanted to, but because you didn't understand it. Or maybe you weren't ready to face what it was asking from you. And now, you're here again, at another moment like this, another pause, another chance to actually listen. Because what you've been feeling wasn't random. It wasn't just your mind. It wasn't just coincidence. It was a call. And the reason it kept coming back is because it hasn't been answered yet. So don't rush past this. Stay here, because what comes next might finally explain what you've been feeling all along. The first thing you need to understand is this. This wasn't silence. It only felt like silence. Because what you were hearing wasn't loud. It wasn't forceful. It wasn't something that demanded your attention. It was quiet, subtle, easy to ignore. And that's why you missed it. Not because it wasn't there, but because it didn't come the way you expected. You were waiting for something obvious, something clear, something that would make you stop immediately. But instead, it came as a feeling, a thought, a moment of hesitation. That doesn't feel right. And you noticed it, just for a second. But then, you moved past it. You told yourself it wasn't important. You told yourself you were overthinking. And you kept going. But here's the part most people don't realize. That quiet feeling wasn't random. It was guidance, trying to reach you in a way you wouldn't resist. Because if it came loud, you might have pushed it away. If it came forcefully, you might have avoided it. So it came gently, again and again and again. Not to confuse you, but to give you time. Time to notice. Time to understand. Time to respond. And right now, you're starting to see it. Not because it suddenly appeared, but because you're finally paying attention. And the reason this keeps coming back is because it was never meant to be heard just once. Think about it. That feeling didn't just happen one time. It showed up again, in a different moment, in a different situation, but it felt the same. That quiet sense that something wasn't right. Stop. Think about this. And for a second, you did. But then you moved on again. You told yourself, it's nothing. I'll figure it out later. And later never came. Because every time it returned, you treated it the same way. You noticed it, but you didn't stay with it. And that's why it kept repeating. Not to confuse you, but to get your attention. Because real guidance doesn't force you. It stays with you. It shows up again until you finally stop long enough to actually listen. And right now, that's what's happening. You're not hearing something new. You're recognizing something that's been there the whole time. The same feeling, the same signal, the same quiet voice that you almost ignored again. But this time, you didn't scroll. You stayed. And that's the difference. Because staying is what turns awareness into understanding. And this is where it becomes real. Not because something new is happening, but because you're starting to see what was already there. The pattern. The same feeling showing up in different moments. The same hesitation before certain decisions. The same quiet voice that you keep pushing away. You already know. And that's the part that's hard to accept. Because now, it's not about confusion anymore. It's about honesty. You've been aware of it. Not fully, but enough. Enough to feel it. Enough to question it. Enough to pause for a second before moving forward anyway. And each time, you chose to move forward. Not because it felt right, but because it felt easier. Easier than stopping. Easier than changing direction. Easier than facing what that feeling might actually mean. And that's where most people stay. In that space between knowing and not acting. But the longer you stay there, the heavier it becomes. Because now, you're not just unaware, you're aware and still choosing to ignore it. And that creates tension, not outside of you, but inside you. A constant pull, a quiet pressure, a feeling that something isn't aligned anymore. And no matter how much you try to ignore it, it doesn't go away. Because it's not meant to. It's meant to guide you, to show you what you've been avoiding. And right now, you're closer to facing it than you've ever been before. And this is the moment where everything changes. Not outside of you, but inside. Because now, you can't pretend you don't see it. You can't say you didn't feel it. You've noticed it too many times. The same pattern, the same hesitation, the same quiet voice telling you to stop. So now, it's not about awareness anymore. It's about choice. What are you going to do with what you know? Because knowing and doing nothing keeps you in the same place, the same cycle, the same confusion, the same feeling that something isn't right. And the longer you stay there, the harder it becomes to move. Not because you can't, but because you keep ignoring yourself. And ignoring yourself creates a different kind of weight. A quiet pressure that builds over time until it's no longer easy to ignore. And that's what this moment is trying to prevent. Not by forcing you, but by showing you clearly enough that you can choose differently. You don't need everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You just need to stop pretending you don't see it, because you do. And once you admit that, you're no longer stuck. You're standing at a decision point, one that can either keep you where you are or move you towards something that actually feels right. And once you stop fighting it, something inside you starts to settle. Not everything at once, but enough to feel the difference. Because now, you're not pushing it away anymore. You're not pretending it's not there. You're allowing yourself to see it for what it is. And that changes everything. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking more. It comes from accepting what's already clear. You stop going in circles. You stop replaying the same thoughts.
You stop asking the same questions that never had new answers, and instead you start to understand, not perfectly, but honestly. You see what doesn't feel right. You see what you've been avoiding. You see what needs to change. And even if it's uncomfortable, it feels real. Because now, you're not trying to convince yourself anymore. You're not forcing something to make sense. You're recognizing what already does. And that recognition is what gives you direction. Not loud, not overwhelming, just clear enough that you can finally move differently. And that's the moment everything begins to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you did.
And when you finally act on it, even in a small way, something begins to change. Not everything around you, but something within you. Because now, you're not standing still anymore. You've moved. And movement breaks the pattern. That pattern of hesitation, of going back and forth, of knowing something isn't right, but staying anyway. The moment you take a step, you interrupt that cycle. And that changes how everything feels. You start to feel lighter, not because everything is fixed, but because you're no longer resisting yourself. You're not fighting what you already understand. You're moving with it. And that's where real clarity begins. Not from thinking longer, but from trusting what you already know. And once you do that, you realize something important. You didn't need another sign. You didn't need more time. You didn't need something louder. You already had enough. You just had to trust it. And now that you have, you're not in the same place anymore. Even if everything around you looks the same, you're different. More aware, more grounded, more aligned with what actually feels right. And that shift is what starts to change everything else. And the more you stay with that choice, the more everything begins to settle. Not perfectly, but clearly, because now you're no longer divided inside. You're not saying one thing and feeling another. You're not ignoring yourself anymore. You're aligned, and that changes how everything feels. There's less noise, less confusion, less of that constant back and forth in your mind. Because you're no longer questioning what you already understand. You're trusting it. And that trust creates a different kind of peace. Not loud, not overwhelming, just steady. Something you can feel, even in silence. And from that place, you move differently. You're not reacting out of pressure anymore. You're not chasing clarity. You're moving with it. And that's what makes the difference. Because now, you're not waiting for something to change. You already have. And when you change, everything around you begins to shift naturally. Not all at once, but in the right direction. And for the first time, it actually feels right. So now, before you move on from this moment, just pause. Not to overthink, not to go back, but to recognize. Because what you've been feeling was never random. That quiet pull, that hesitation, that voice you couldn't explain, that was real. And it didn't come once. It came again and again and again. Not to confuse you, but to reach you. And now, for the first time,
You didn't ignore it. You stayed. You listened. And that matters more than you realize. Because most people never stop long enough to hear it. But you did. And that changes everything. So don't go back to ignoring it. Don't go back to doubting what you already feel. Don't wait for something louder, because you've already seen enough. Now it's about what you do next. Because this moment, this awareness, this clarity was given to you for a reason. And the choice you make after this is what shapes what comes next. So stay aware, stay honest, and trust what you feel. Because you're not being ignored, you're being called. And this time, you answered. End.